I'm turning now to Blaise Fernandes and Amit Bhandari. So the Chinese venture capital firms came in, or were they affiliated with the state directly, or were they venture capital firms affiliated with Baidu, Tencent, and Alibaba?
Amit, you will take that in terms of the unicorns in India?
What was the nature?
I can't hear that clearly. Could you repeat that?
What was the nature of the Chinese entities who invested in your startup technology company? Were they venture capital firms, or were they the large technology companies like Alibaba?
So actually, we identified about 90 plus Chinese investments in the Indian startup sector, and we could broadly see two very clear groups. On one side, you had companies like Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, Xiaomi, the cell phone company. Each of them had anywhere from 8 to 12 investments in different Indian startups, ranging from fintech, media, social media, and related industries, and also online retail. On the other side, we had Hong Kong-based venture capital funds, which well-known funds like SAF Partners and etc., which had invested in a wide range of companies. When we looked at the investments made by Alibaba and Tencent, so there were a few very specific issues. First of all, we could not find a common investment between Alibaba and Tencent. So if I'm a venture capital fund and I'm making a financial investment, I don't care who else is there. If I'm looking at a long-term acquisition of the company, I will probably not get where my rival is already present. So one, we saw that Alibaba and Tencent are not just investing, they are trying to purchase a long-term foothold in the Indian online marketplace. One. Second, we saw that they are obviously trying to recreate the online ecosystem that they have in China. An online retail outfit, a media company, a social media company, a payment gateway, and so on. And finally, because of this large-scale investment, we felt that a number of issues were cropping up. The first issue is, of course, data security. A fintech company has a lot of sensitive information about a lot of us. We do not want that to be shared with Chinese entities. The second issue, apart from data security, is that of influence. Chinese companies, through proxy and also through outfits like TikTok, have actually been able to get a presence in the Indian media industry. They have a reach of tens and hundreds of millions of consumers in some cases, and this kind of a reach can be leveraged to bad purposes also. And we have seen that Chinese companies do export their censorship standards worldwide. TikTok actually took down videos which were critical of Chinese government. So
may I interrupt you to ask, how have the Chinese created such a large media footprint, and why would Indians trust anything coming from China?
Well, I'll step in here. I think it's a very open economy. India is a very open economy. Be it media, be it entertainment, be it investments, there are no restrictions. Just to diverse a bit, of the top 5 networks in India, 3 belong to Hollywood companies. And I'm talking the television networks and digital networks. So it was an open season for everybody. It's a very open economy. And TikTok proliferated because the app was popular, and it was, by and large, we've got a huge database in terms of close to 450 million smartphone users, tech savvy across various languages.
So you were concerned, may I ask, you were concerned about the data leaving India, going back to China, where we
always knew the data was going out of India. But the moment the government found out that TikTok was being used for strategic purposes, UC browser was being used for strategic purposes, news on UC browser was being censored, maps were being altered, messaging through TikTok was being, anti-India, the government was within its rights, and also in terms of WTO, as there was a border skirmish, WTO does empower us to kind of take such actions. But what that set off is a global trigger, and the Achilles heel, as the movie Troy, the Achilles heel of the China government, of the PRC, was the digital Silk Route. And the digital Silk Route and the app ban that's happening throughout the world shouldn't be looked at in isolation. it should be looked in conjunction with China Manufacturing 2025 and Chinese Standards 2025. What made TikTok a great app? TikTok was taking data from America, taking data from Australia, Europe, India, rich data sets, ingesting it there, and also having Chinese data. So you've got local Chinese data, you've got international data, ingesting it, making it a great app. That's why a lot of the FANG companies couldn't compete. The Digital Silk Route is the flag bearer for Made in China 2025 because it's going to send the data that makes those products competitive, and eventually China Standard 2035. So that is being hit. The second part is the Digital Silk Route is actually the mobility escalator for the 600 million people who are still living at $140 a month. And Li Qiang after the Chinese conference in the summer or the spring of 2020 actually said, those people need to move. And right now, not only have these apps being banned and being impacted in terms of valuations, in terms of data being, data supply being stopped, but there's a pause button on the mobility escalator to get those 600 people, because China cannot depend on manufacturing. The factory of the world is over. They have to depend on high tech, and this data is being stopped. And lastly, I think, in terms of the globe, in terms of the internet, it's now virtually the splinternet of you have China on one side and the rest of the world on one side, the rest of the world also kind of bifurcating, Europe going their own way, America going their own way, and probably India showing the way, because they'll probably be in the splinternet, India showing their own powerness. And with these opening comments, I will pause here and I'll take further questions on.
May I ask, you're concerned about the technology investments because of the data leaving India and also the influence factor. But were the Chinese also stealing technology? Were they hacking your systems and taking sensitive intellectual property?
No, they weren't taking intellectual property, but they were taking sensitive data from India, because at the end of the day, everybody had these apps on their phones, people in government, people in military, people in paramilitary, people in security forces. So that data could have been leaked because those apps were embedded on phones, in probably 300, 400 million phones in India. So there's a possibility that the government found out something which they have not yet disclosed. They're well within their rights not to disclose, that there was a sensitive data leakage.